76ers rebounding woes continue in Boston. We'll try to find out whether or not there's an answer on the way. All that and more in this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers part of your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the number one sports podcast network out there. And this particular episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn your energy into even bigger winnings with the college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Keith Pompey, longtime 76ers writer. Marc Farzetta, a longtime Philly sports talker. First, Keith, I got to say, the beard's looking tight, my friend. Beard's looking real good.
Yeah, I shaved it down. My daughter was like, Daddy. And I was like, okay, finally I did it. So I shaved it down on, what was it, Thursday?
There you go. A little tight. Yeah. I like it. We're going to talk about how the 76ers, it doesn't really get any easier. They got the Spurs and Wemby coming up next. They got Joel Embiid's status to get to when it comes to the oblique. And then we also have this awful loss to the Celtics. And the reason I say awful, now I'll start with this, Keith. I don't know about you, but I liked that the Sixers at least fought. I mean, shots weren't falling. They certainly weren't able to get the rebounds throughout the game. But Kelly Oubre played with a bit of an edge, especially towards the end of that one. VJ Edge comes diving into the stands, kicking ladies in the head by accident, of course, and the two, hugged. But the Sixers, I don't think it was for a lack of trying that they didn't do well last night. They couldn't hit shots in the first half. They only scored 15 points in the fourth quarter, and throughout the night, man, they had no answer whatsoever for the Boston Celtics and the rebounding aspect of the game, getting outboarded 22 rebounds. And Neemias Queta, 27 points, 17 boards, 10 offensive rebounds, Keith. And the Sixers as a squad had 10 offensive rebounds combined. The entire team. Not great. What were your takeaways from Boston?
It's tough because, I'm looking at this team and we talk about the rebounding. We talk about a lot of other things. We talk about how there was really no ball movement. To me, it was one of those things where one team played like a team, another team played like you got Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe trying to will them to win, right? And when you look at it, it's kind of like you were living and dying off of the shots that they were taking. And to me, the biggest thing is, Queta was a beast. Other guys stepped up. But the 76ers right now, they need a third scorer, and they just can't do it. And also, the problem is one of those things where I felt like, and I know they have the will to win, and they feel like they do, but there were opportunities I felt like where they could have got other players more involved, and they just didn't do it. But I'm not going to fault them for it because, you look at it when you have so many people out, when talking about Joel Embiid and Paul George, you really miss Jared McCain right now. I feel like Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe feel like they have to do it all. And unfortunately, on certain nights when shots aren't falling, you're going to lose. And you look at this Boston Celtics team, and that's what they were. They were a team. Queta had a career-high 27. Jaylen Brown had 27. I mean, you look at Maxey, Maxey had, 30-something shots.
34 shots, 33 points.
Yeah, 33 points. VJ Edgecombe, what he had? 21 shots, right? And then Kelly Oubre was the next closest guy with 10 shots, and he only made 2 of them. Oof. So it's just one of those things like the 76ers look like a bunch of individuals out there yesterday or 2 guys and playing with just, I don't know, plugs, so to speak. And I think that they need to get better ball movement in order for them to win these games. Now, again, yes, they got destroyed on the boards, but the problem is that they were down 6 late. And they still lost the game. It's like they got to do better recognizing situations, and the ball just has to move. I mean, it's just, here we go. 34 shots, 21 shots, 10 shots. And the bench production, they only got 14 points. The 76ers need to play better. Quentin Grimes has to step up. Kelly Oubre needs to step up. But again, Quentin Grimes has to get in better situations for him to get the ball in order to step up.
Mm-hmm. Something you mentioned there, the 6-point lead. I want to talk about that. But first, there's 2 instances where I thought they're not winning this basketball game. There were multiple throughout the night, but two in particular, Keith. Second quarter, they clearly didn't have it. They get outscored by 14 points in the second quarter. Maxey, by the close of the first half, was 4 for 18 from the floor. So not great, obviously. That was my first inkling. And I'm like, now, and the third quarter collapse hasn't even happened yet. To the Sixers' credit, they did not collapse in the fourth quarter. They actually won the third quarter by 6 points. But then that play happened where VJ Edgecombe went into the stands that I alluded to in the open. That was awesome. That showed me they're still ticking. They're still in this. They have a chance to do something. When he sold out like that and went flying into the fans courtside in Boston last night, and then they did nothing with it on that possession when they were down 6, that was my metaphoric nail in the coffin of the Sixers' chances of winning that basketball game. Now, again, like I said, there were many points throughout the night where it just didn't obviously feel like their night. They had multiple open looks that could have cut the lead to 3, could have cut the lead to 4, and they weren't connecting on any of them, unfortunately. But those are the 2 instances, really the close of the second quarter, and when they failed to get anything out of VJ's save towards the end of the game, that's where I went, just get through this game healthy the rest of the way, move on to the Spurs, get back to South Philly, and hopefully they have better luck on Tuesday night. But those were the 2 big instances, Keith, that I just thought, yeah, definitely not going to be their night.
Yeah, and there was one point in particular, I want to say it was the second half, where, if you notice, for most of this point in clutch time, you would have VJ and Maxey on one side, and the other 2 players were on the other side, and you would have Drummond showing in the middle a little bit, right, at the top of the key. And there was one particular play where Drummond showed and he was wide open. And VJ, instead of passing him the ball, he kicked it, swung it to Maxey. Maxey missed the shot. And Drummond looked at him like, yo, I'm open. And then in the next possession, he passed it to Drummond, and then Edgecombe went to the basket, got a bounce pass, I believe it was, and goes up and score. And Drummond's like, yeah. At that particular point, I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, and I don't want to call it hero ball, but it was hero ball. It was like those 2 put it all on themselves to do stuff. I'm asking and I'm thinking to myself, you got to start running plays for Quentin Grimes. You got to get Kelly Oubre get an easy bucket to get his confidence up. Because when we looked at this other team from early on, let's say Kata, early on, what happened? Kata had a 5-footer. He instead of taking it, he kicks it out and they drain the 3. Before that, they were struggling a little bit from the 3. So then you look and you start seeing different guys excelling in their roles. The 76ers didn't do that, right? And then I'm also looking at it, whereas, outside of Maxey, outside of Edgecombe, who were the shooters? I mean, Andre Drummond was one of their best shooters from outside, right? So I was looking at this Sixers team, to me, and I'm saying to myself, there's a lot of deficiencies right now with this squad. They were allotted, and we look at the other team, guys were trying to take charges. Guys are knocking down shots. They're doing whatever they can. And I'm looking at the Sixers and I'm thinking, you're not getting these guys involved. what Nick Nurse could have done a better job at. And then secondly, we're looking at them, and they're a lot of the same players, like energy dudes. Energy dudes. Whereas when you got when you have Tyrese Maxey and you have VJ Edgecombe, you need some shooters out there for them. But again, you got to get Kelly more involved. You got to get Quentin more involved. Grimes. He only had 5 shots. Like, you know what I mean? How does he only get 5 shots? You need a legitimate third scorer, right? You just do. And I just felt like it was bad all the way around. Now, again, what their Sixers are going to say is we just didn't make shots, and which is true. We didn't make shots. But at the same time, you shot close. You shot 39.8%, 38.7% on threes, whereas we're talking about the Boston Celtics who shot 32.7% on threes, right? But when we look at it, it was more balanced. I mean, you got Jaylen Brown with 17 shot attempts, Sandhauser at 11, Cater with 14, Shearman with 12, Derek White with 16, Vucevic with 4. Peyton Pritchard only had 4 shots, right? Gonzalez had 2, and Jordan Walsh had 6. You know what I mean? Whereas we look at the Sixers, and we already said it. You know, it was 34-31, where Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe had 55 of their 88 shots. You're not going to beat a team like that. You're just not. You're not.
All right, when we come back, there's 2 things. You mentioned one about Nick Nurse that he could have done differently when it came to Kelly Oubre. There's one other thing that I'm questioning. We'll talk about that. And also just what you understand, what you know about the Joel Embiid situation with the oblique injury. We'll talk about that and more when we return. This is Locked On 76ers and the Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. Like and subscribe back after this. And right now, it's time to tell you about BetterHelp and something you need to be taking advantage of right now when it comes to BetterHelp. This episode, by the way, brought to you by BetterHelp. March is a time to celebrate women, especially around International Women's Day, and to recognize just how much they carry. At work, in relationships, in families, and in all the unseen roles they step into every single day. It's easy to celebrate that strength, but it's just as important to make space for their emotional well-being as well. And honestly, that goes for all of us. And BetterHelp is here to help with that. I think you think about your mom, your wife, maybe your sister, maybe your cousin you're close with, another lady you're close with. Think about how they might need that help. Well, BetterHelp is there for them. It's therapy that you can count on, creating balance, setting healthy boundaries, and supporting your overall well-being. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served worldwide, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, and it works. Fill out a short questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist. And if it's not the right fit, switch it anytime. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/lockedonnba for BetterHelp. And how about the Everydayer Club? Make sure you guys sign up and be part of the amazing Everydayer Club, where you could get ad-free episodes of Locked On 76ers plus members-only Discord access at lockedon76ers.supercast.com. Keith, a couple of things. Yeah, you mentioned the lack of shooting. Not being able to hit buckets right there. You see a guy like Kelly Oubre, who I always credit for kind of an Oubre boost, I like to call it, when it comes to all of a sudden Kelly Oubre, everyone else is struggling. Kelly Oubre gets you 8. You know, he just finds that way to help bridge a gap when everybody else is struggling to when the regular number one scorers start getting going again. Nick Nurse, as you highlighted, never tapped into that, never tried to really get him going in that regard. I mean, he's not going to go out there and sink shots for him, but there's a way you could put the proverbial quarter in the machine to get Kelly Oubre going. That was one question I had. The other was, is Adem Bona okay? Like, I know in other games we've called for Andre Drummond when they're struggling in the rebounding game to get more Andre Drummond in there. But those are more so nights when maybe Joel Embiid is playing. Last night, Adem Bona only plays 16 minutes. Andre Drummond plays 31, 32 minutes. Neither were spectacular on the glass. I mean, still Drummond had 12 rebounds in the game. 2, I believe, on the offensive side of things. Those other 10 came on the defensive side of things. But we're going to run them both at some point. Like it just seemed to me that they just had, as it's been a recurring theme, no answer on the boards. Bona hasn't been great at it, but when you're struggling that way, I think you would try a little mix of both. And he didn't see that last night.
Nah, we didn't see that last night at all. I mean, it's a lot of the stuff that happened last night was a little, I want to say, confusing a little bit. Because my thing is, I felt like if Tyrese Maxey and we'll get into the situation. I felt like if Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe are your two guys that you're trying to get going, and we know how Maxey, a lot of times when they want to get them going, they get them out in space and stuff like that and run and do things. I was shocked a little bit that Cam Payne only played as little as he did for that one stint. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like that wasn't a long enough stretch right now. But when you do go with Cam Payne, then you realize you got to go a little bit smaller lineup, whatever. So it may impact the rebounding a little bit. But to me, I just felt like, and Cam Payne can knock down shots too, right? But I just felt like I would love to see him a little bit more. When you look at Drummond is the best rebounder, right? So I guess you felt like he could impact Kata a little bit. But if you notice, a lot of times they kept switching, or like they kept getting in the mismatches. Like there was times when he was being guarded by VJ Edgecombe, a lot of other people, or it was like, one of those things where, like nobody, it was like guys were just wide open. It was like Kata, like guys would miss the shot, and then all of a sudden they're like missing the Sixers are missing the rebound, and he's getting it wide open and bloom or laying it up or doing whatever. So it was one of those things where I just felt like there was a lot of the different lineups out there, like bad lineups out there on that night. And, as Phil said, nobody from Boston posts up, maybe Brown. He's right. I mean, and what that is, but Kata was just in the paint, just getting everything, grabbing a lot of different things. So to me, I was just a little bit confused. I felt like it could have been some different lineups out there in the game. And then late in the game, they took Barlow out of the game to get Quentin Grimes in there, an additional shooter, but he wasn't getting the ball really. So it was just a lot of different things that I saw yesterday that I don't know, man. It looked like one team was well coached and the other team had athletes. That's what it looked like. And I hate to say that, but that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of one team was this, both of them were elite squads, but one team had the two standout players who had to do a lot of work, where the other team was like this national squad that had power, had players, but they had guys who knew their role better and did things better. You know what I mean? It just
that's what you call coaching. Yeah.
Coaching. He got out coached.
It's absolutely. It's funny that you reference the, a team versus athletes, because one of the things Kata was doing last night, I mean, certainly he was far more athletic, not that anyone's surprised by this, but far more athletic than Andre Drummond. And one of the things I noticed, and you pointed out the switches, which is absolutely a huge thing from last night. The other is that anytime a shot went up, Kata got position.
Yeah.
Like he just got position on Andre Drummond. Drummond almost took the rebound for granted, it looked like to me. And he was still their best rebounder last night. I get it, but that's not a high bar right now, unfortunately. But Queta was getting position on every single opportunity, every single chance. Again, the Sixers had 10 offensive rebounds as a team. Queta had 10 offensive rebounds individually, last night. And they made a point of it in the fourth quarter. The Celtics, about 5 minutes into the fourth quarter, had gotten 26 points off 16 offensive rebounds as a unit. They finished with 19 offensive rebounds to the Sixers' 10. But they were getting positioning. Sixers were not adjusting to it whatsoever, and then they were capitalizing on those opportunities. There was one instance, Keith, corner three wide open. They clank it off the back of the rim, the side of the rim. Celtics, though, they gather, they get the rebound. Next thing you know, Jaylen Brown knocks down the three. That was in the fourth quarter as well. To me, that was just par for the course of last night's game. And there was another instance with Queta where if they were running out, Queta was going right through the lane time and time again, like you were playing a 10-year-old in 2K. They just have a play they like running, and they keep going to it. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what Missoula did last night with Queta. They were going to do it until the Sixers stopped it, and they never stopped it.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If we're going to be real, this team has made drastic improvements. Like Joel Embiid, we'll talk about him shortly. But Joel Embiid is one of those guys who made a lot of improvements since the beginning of the season. Well, this team made tremendous improvements. I mean, to a point where you look at it and you say to yourself, dude, are you really going to start Queta over Nick Vucevic? Really? Are you going to do that? And now you understand why. It's the chemistry that they had. We're talking about a guy who his first 2 years played a total of 20 games, right? The first two with the Sacramento Kings, talking about Queta. And then, he goes to Boston and, first year of Boston, 28 games. Last year, 62 games with 6 starts. Now he started 56 out of 57 games, averaging a career high, 10.1. But the whole squad, they all look better. And in the beginning of the season, you're saying to yourself, who are these dudes? And what they did is they got all these guys fitting in certain roles. Now, the problem with Queta is yesterday, he seemed way more athletic than I ever thought he was. And maybe because of his height, in his athleticism, that's a legitimate matchup problem for Bona. Bona is listed as 6'10", but he's really 6'8", so maybe he felt like we had to have Drummond on there because of being 6'11" and his body, maybe leaning on him, but he was a little bit too quick for him. And he was a little bit too big for Bona. So, he was a bad matchup for them, a really bad matchup.
Mm-hmm. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about Embiid. Let's also talk about Wemby. I hate saying this because I know he's going to have himself a game against the Sixers, but I just look forward to being able to watch him play for 48 full minutes. All right, we'll talk about that when we return. This is Locked On 76ers and Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe back after this. And right now, it's time to tell you about FanDuel. I hope you guys, the fun you could be having on FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. It is March. You know what that means. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night, from early tip-ins and tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts. There's nothing like FanDuel when it comes to college basketball. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your read. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Look up the odds, check them out, win yourself some money. Go safe or go bold. Ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay. It's your style. Have fun with it. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. And how about Indeed? Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing. The one position you have to fill is still left open. What's going on here? You need Indeed. Indeed sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for with skills, experience, and location. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate comes along, but the perfect fit fills that spot. Here's a stat for you, folks. In just the short time I've been telling you about Indeed sponsored jobs, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who actually seem like the right fit and check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing the candidates to check all those boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. That's called efficiency, people. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, Indeed sponsored jobs is what you need. Just go to Indeed sponsored jobs. That's Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On 76ers. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Keith, as you see it right now with Joel Embiid and this oblique injury, what's your understanding of it? Supposed to miss 3 games, then get reevaluated. What's going on with Embiid?
I think that's a good sign, right? I do. And the reason why I'm saying that is because recovery time from, an oblique strain, typically takes anywhere from 5 to 10 days, right? For mild cases, or 4 to 8 weeks for severe strains. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they said, we're going to reevaluate him after Wednesday's game, right? Is to me is a good sign. Because here's the deal. So when we look at it, we think about it. So it's already been 3 days. So you talk about actually, when did they play? They played on the 76ers played on what day was it? It was Thursday, right? So if you think about it, they played on Thursday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday is 3. Monday, today is the 4th. Then 5th, 6th. So what he'll be done with? So when you think about it, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. So let's just say if you want to go to full 10 days, then he could come back and play on Tuesday. If not, he could actually play on Saturday against Atlanta, right? We know he's not going to play in the back-to-backs. Now, the thing about the oblique strain is what they're doing right now makes a lot of sense because treatment involves rest, cold packs, gentle stretching, and you have to avoid twisting and lifting. So when you're playing ball, you got to twist a little bit. You got to do a lot of things. So the best thing for them to do for him was shut it down, right? We'll see what happens if once they reevaluate him. Like after this back-to-back, they'll have 2 more days off, and then you can see how he feels if you want him to go on that road trip, right? Mm-hmm. So when they said they'll reevaluate him after this next 3 games, to me, I'm under the impression that this is a mild case, something they find out. If it was severe, Joel probably wouldn't have came back and played in the game, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, it's a bad situation because we look at it and we see how they play without him, right? Unfortunately, this is something that the 76ers are used to. Not knowing if he's going to be available is something that everyone in Philadelphia, Sixers fans all over the globe are used to now. But to me, it's one of those things when they said that this is it could be the best case scenario for the 76ers.
How they play without him. They showed the stats last night. Sixers now are 2-8 without Joel Embiid in their last 10 games since January 1st. Their field goal percentage drops by about 8 points. Their offensive rating drops by about 14 points. Their defensive rating is about 4 points better without Joel Embiid out there. That's the only thing that goes up. But net rating, this is crazy. Net rating with Joel Embiid since January 1st, plus 8.7. Net rating without Joel Embiid since January 1st, minus 8.8. Holy pots and pans, Keith. That is one hell of a drop-off. Plus 8.7, minus 8.8 with and without Joel Embiid. Not ideal. Not ideal.
No.
All right. Is any part of you looking forward to watching Victor Wembanyama take on the 76ers tomorrow night in South Philly? 8 o'clock, another nationally televised game.
Yeah. And here's why. I mean, you look at this guy. I remember I was in the locker room next to him one time, and they were saying he was 7'4", and I was like, come on, bro. They must be lying. Like, he got to be way bigger than that, unless all the other guys who said they were 7'4" weren't 7'4", right? I mean, maybe, this dude is huge. And, I'm a little disappointed because I would love to see him go up against Embiid, right? And I'm pretty sure he would love to go up against Embiid because we all remember, like, when Embiid played him the first time, that's when Embiid had the 70 points, right? And Embiid hasn't been the same since he's played him. Now, he was trending that way before this, the latest injuries with the knee and the oblique. And it would have been must-see TV. But when there's a certain guy, it's kind of like when Michael Jordan, when I was a kid and Michael Jordan played the Sixers, regardless of who was lining up for the Sixers, I wanted to see him play. When LeBron James was in his prime, it was the same thing. So, yeah, I would love to see, I want to see Wemby. It could get ugly. You remember last time they played him, Drummond tried to bully him and they tried to do all types of stuff. But I feel like Wemby is a way better player now, right? Mm-hmm. To a point where, you're not going to get over on him by doing that. And, for the third year in a row, he's like leading the league in blocks, right? So I just want to see what that looks like. I just really do. I want to see.
I want to see that. And then I want to see the Sixers find a way to overcome it, Keith. Here's rooting for it, but not betting on it. Keith Pompey, Marc Farzetta, great talking 76ers with you guys as per usual. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Locked On 76ers. Keith and I'll be back with you tomorrow to break it down even further and preview a little bit more of this game against the Spurs and Wemby. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. Back with you guys tomorrow. Also, don't forget to sign up to be part of the Everydayer Club. We'll see you guys tomorrow.